Just been discussing a distinct lack of information today. Hello, looks like well, broad daylight, but the moon's up. Several of them. 23.9 kilometres. Sorry about that. You hove in on a pedalo for a wave, and you get more than you bargained for. It's the Tour. 4 minutes and 11 is the gap. You've got to rely on your teammates, Sean. We know that Quintana, he's got Valverde. Froome has got what looks like a shaky alliance at the moment. I'm hoping that they can go deep into the mountain with him. Alpe d'Huez beckons. Dara McQuaid's written, and he says, ask Sean about the Alpe d'Huez 1989. He had to ride for Alcala, and his teammate, Ampler, refused to ride. What have you done to Ampler?
Well, we did not do anything. It was with the PDM team, and of course we had Alcala, we had Brooking more so, who was, challenging to win the Tour outright, and we were 4 in a group, and it was actually Greg, LeMond, Alcala, Bunyo. They went away on one of the small climbs which we're about to come to here, and then you plunge down and you do the valley to Bourg-Oisans, and I was in the group. We're about 15 riders, and by the director sportif, Jan Gisbert, who were asked to ride, but Ampler refused to ride because he thought he could do a performance on Alpe d'Huez. He refused, and there was a lot of discussion that night after. I rode to the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez, and then I lost a lot of time, but that was my job because we had Alcala, we had Eric Brooking, who were stage contenders, but also the general classification. They were up there, a little bit like the Tinkoff affair at the moment.
There you go. Did Ampler say that he hadn't heard the instruction? Alan Micah?
No, he had the instructions, but
he ripped them up.
Yes, he ripped up the notes, and of course, yes, it's not new. We're hearing, but in teams, when you have a lot of leaders, that can be a problem when you get to the end of a 3-week tour. Not alone between the riders who are on the top 10 in general classification, but if you have riders in the team who are also in that position, well, then it becomes a problem that one rider sometimes have to make a sacrifice, but it doesn't always happen.
22.5 kilometres to go, and 4 minutes and 9 now is the gap of Geniez. I don't know, when do we start to believe in Geniez? Poor bloke, 9th in the Giro, and star turn of Francis de Jeux this year, a team that really kind of made up the numbers essentially, but Geniez got himself a top 10 finish overall, and today he's bidding for glory. I think his problem is that there's a great battle here. If everyone starts looking at each other, that's one thing, but the intermittent riders, which is Pinot, Anacona, Roland, Plaza, Serpa, Ejidal and Navadauskas, must think that potentially they've got a chance today, Sean. If the GC boys start looking at each other, if they do, that's to the detriment of Quintana and the battle for yellow. I don't think Quintana's got an option but to attack, Sean, and this is the last day.
Well, I think it's the last day for the climbers that haven't got a stage victory here, but again we can see here this group is quite a big group, and I feel with that advantage out to Geniez, 4 minutes 10, and more so the group of Pierre Roland, Pinot, Plaza Molina, Roland, Hejdal, Navadauskas, all of those guys, they're just over 2:30 up. That's where the danger could come from, Pierre Roland. Hejdal also, he seems to be getting better in this race as we get to the end, which was a similar situation in the Giro. But they need to pull out a bit more, and I think for Geniez, the effort he's making, he's been making for a long time. This 4 minute advantage is never going to be enough.
No, 21.2 kilometres to go, 4 minutes and 10. Yes, this chase group right now with Pierre Roland, I'm fascinated to know what they're going to do, to be honest. Time gained by Quintana on Chris Froome is one thing, but if these guys really can muster themselves, you never know, we might get a stage winner from the breakaway today, albeit having a secondary battle. We're kind of getting used to that, Sean. We've had lots of breakaway success while the GC boys have had their own scrap further down the mountain.
Yes, well, we see here in this group of 7 riders, sorry, we'll call it the Roland group, Pinot group. There are not a lot of riders contributing to the pace setting. It looks like Navardaskas is the only one who's pulling along for Hejdal. The rest seems to be happy to sit on and wait. And winner Ancona, of course, from Movistar, he's just up here. There's a plan of action as we get to the Alp. He's going to be out there and they're going to try and use him, so he's not going to burn his energy at this point. As we can see, Ruben Plaza Molina, Serpa doing nothing, so it's not growing out this advantage. We see 2:26 at the moment ahead of the yellow jersey.
We're going to see some pictures of Alpe d'Huez, Greg LeMond and Bernard Hinault. The great holding hands moment, I think it is. We saw Greg LeMond with LeMond on tour. It's said to be one of the greatest moments of Alpe d'Huez, but quite frankly, it seemed like a bit of a stitch-up to Greg LeMond in hindsight, and that's certainly the way it appears to most of us as well. Shake hands with Bernard Hinault, count your fingers afterwards, I think is the is the sense of it. So let's have a look at that moment from Le Monde on Tour when we actually discussed with Greg that famous finish with Greg and Bernard.
Let's go back to your career, because you started with a story about 1986. 1990 on Alpe d'Huez wasn't so great for you, but tell us the story of 1986 as we see the pictures of you and Bernard Hinault.
Well, we had a really big battle. I'm actually learning more every year, because there's another documentary. I kind of go, wow, I had the team against me from the start. But at the bottom, Hinault was my big brother, and I kept trying to mend the relationship. And at the bottom, Bernard Tapie said, why don't you let, you've won the Tour, let Hinault win the stage, symbolically let him lead up, which I was actually okay with, because I was worried about the crowds. Nothing happened. And then we kind of said, okay, we'll come across the line hand in hand. And, Hinault still says it was always spontaneous. It was all planned. And I said, I remember being dumbfounded at the press conference that day, because Hinault said, well, the race isn't over until Saint Etienne, the time trial. And I'm going, I wish you would have said this at the bottom, because I was really strong that day, and I do believe I'd have taken minutes out of him that day.
Yeah.
There you go. he fought on. I did notice as well, Sean, they held hands and they, just nudged over the line as well that day to take the victory. But the time was nullified that Greg could have put into Bernard and kept the race alive, I guess. But I guess as well, Greg, you live and learn, eh?
Yes, it's the case. You always live and learn, and we heard Greg talking there. If he had known, as I mentioned a moment ago, in teams, sometimes your team members can be the biggest rivals.
Absolutely. 18 kilometers to go. Doesn't sound like much. Still a lot of racing, Sean, here.
Yes, well, we can see here, the peloton has been pulled along by Team Sky at the moment, and there's quite a few there with Chris Froome at the moment. It's going to be an interesting one as we come to the Alp. Who's going to take control, who's going to lead onto the Alp and take on the first slopes, and that is going to be a very important one. And the Alp is a one where when you arrive on, it just goes straight up the first kilometre, almost a straight line, and when you come into that, at full speed, and sometimes they can just go on to that a sprint 50 kilometers per hour. That's when it hurts to get into the rhythm, and it's very steep in the beginning. The first section is a real high percentage, and that's where it hurts. And you can see if they do go and really go at a fast pace, the group will just disintegrate totally immediately.
We cannot wait. 17.1 kilometers. Gillies up the road. 9 chasers, including Pierre Roland, by the way, Serpa, Ejidal, and others. Ancona also in there. They're at 2 minutes and 6 down on this man. Nearly 4 minutes down. 3 minutes and 51 is the yellow jersey group. Gillies, has he got a little bit of belief about the day? Well, it may well be misplaced. I think the winner on the stage will come from this group, potentially. There we are. That's qualification at the end. Lots of questions, Sean, about when Quintana should have attacked. Jeff Garrett says, should he have attacked earlier on Le Tuissier? the point is, Sean, you can only attack when you've got the opportunity. He's had the opportunity today. He's taken it. Should Quintana have been more aggressive earlier in this race?
Well, I think he has been aggressive on a number of occasions, and unfortunately he hasn't, really put Chris Froome under difficulty until yesterday. And yesterday was the first time that we see Froome not able to, match Quintana in the attack. He'd take maybe 15-20 meters, and then we'd see Chris Froome closing down. It looked like that yesterday that he was going to do it, but he wasn't able to do it. The first kilometre, I thought he was going to close down on Quintana, but then the gap started to open, and then from there on it just opened up very slowly, and Chris Froome just limited his losses from that point. I don't think the climb yesterday was the place for Quintana to attack. He had to wait until, there was a lot of aggressive riding done by Tinkoff especially, and when everybody was really getting to the very end of their powers, well, then he went in the attack. Today is a different situation. Alpe d'Huez percentage, it is 8%, but it does kick up to 14%, and that's where Quintana is at his best.
Here we are looking down at Dutch Corner as well. The road absolutely clogged with people. There's no way through for anything at the moment. You'd be hard pushed to push a toothpick through that lot. It's absolutely rammed. You can see that there appears to be absolutely solid with vehicles as well. So they took the 7-day warning, Sean, and they got their parking spots by the looks of things. In 2 kilometers time we start the climb, and these guys have got a great chance of going for it. Roland looks nice and relaxed within this group, I've got to say. There he is, just adjusting himself, sitting up. It could be a great day for Pierre Roland. It's his kind of terrain, Sean. Do you think he's got a chance of a stage here? Well,
I think he's been very active in the last number of days. Yesterday of recent, he was really good, but of course when Nibali came to him, he was a fresher man. In the end, he was just too strong for him. But we also have Thibaut Pinot here, the French rider from Française de Joux, in this group with Pierre Roland. And let's not forget winner Ancona. He is also a very good climber. Hejdahl, we see there that Navardaskas is doing a lot of work for Hejdahl to get him onto the climb with as much advantage as possible over the big favourites. But again, we see there the advantage. Will it be enough? If they really start racing in the earlier slopes of Alpe d'Huez back in the yellow jersey group, well then this group of very good climbers will also have difficulty going all the way to the top of the Alpe and challenging or going for stage victory.
They roll through the sprint here. Navardaskas takes secondary points behind Geniez, but it's of no consequence for the green jersey, which is certain to be awarded to Peter Sagan. He just has to finish this race. And within time today, the pace has been extremely high, by the way, and it will take a toll. Alpe d'Huez, and we're nearly there, Sean. We're at a length of 13.8 with 500 meters or so, or at least Geniez is, from starting the climb itself.
Yes, well, Geniez is the man who is going to go on to the Alpe, and what a reception he will get on the earlier slopes. But again, his advantage, as we can see, he's really worked well at it. He's held 350 at the moment to the yellow jersey group, and the group of Pinot at 145, because they have been riding very strong. And when you see Navardaskas is riding there, you can see Serpa's pulling along. There's a lot of riders really pushing here.
Here he goes, 13.8 kilometers from the line, and his hell begins now. A little bit of a preview before everyone else gets here, and it does kick up absolutely immediately. Don't forget, this is the 29th time of asking. 21 hairpins, 14 kilometers, just shy of that, of sheer pain, and this is it. Look at the black run. It doesn't turn to red, only momentarily, until we get deep into it. A couple of kilometers in, then it's black again, still at red, so hovering around 9%. It really is a nasty, spiteful test, this one. Somebody's going to be equal to it and take it on. How deep will Geniez get in before he gets caught? We're about to find out. He's got 1 minute and 42 on some pretty handy pursuers. That's the cruel part. With still 5 kilometers to go, it goes black again, eases up towards the end, and in fact it's going to seem extremely easy, but it's still just shy of 6% at the last. There it is, Alpe d'Huez. They give it the respect, Sean. They just call it the Alpe.
Yes, well, I don't know if the riders are going to give it respect. Everybody will just give it, everything here, and On the earlier slopes, that is where it's difficult. Where we have Gines at the moment, you can see it's going pretty much straight up. That is in the black section, and to get into your rhythm here is very, very difficult. And we can see Gines just trying to get a good as rhythm as possible, 11% at the moment. And we will see this group of chasers, 9 riders coming onto it at the moment. So will the winner come from this group? I am doubtful, because I think back in the group of yellow jersey, they are going to really start racing at the earlier point. I hope they're going to race at the earlier point. They have to, Movistar have to start doing something to try and get Quintana into a really good position, and if they do that, I think we could see it all coming back together before this, the finish here on the top of Alp.
Here we go. This is where the hurt starts for the chasers at the moment. Who's going to save something? Well, very few, I think, are possibly capable of it. Lars Bak just backing out of it, I'm afraid. And here come the yellow jersey group right now. Sky taking on duty straight away. Nice to see as well that the Yates brothers are both here as well for Orica Greenedge. Simon and Adam, that's good news. There is rider Ejidal's listed as part of this group, which includes Pierre Roland, we remind you. There we are. Already Sagan can't be caught, provided, of course, he finishes up the Champs-Élysées, and indeed a fact that is being acknowledged graphically for us right now. There we are. Cannot be overtaken anymore, and will win the points classification for the 4th consecutive time. The scenario that Greipel could have denied him really was outlandish. He would have had to win the intermediates and both of the days, including tomorrow's final sprint, in order to deny Sagan. So congratulations to Peter Sagan. So one jersey decided, another couple, or indeed 3, to be decided today. I think the young rider's jersey, it'd be hard for anybody to get back at Nairo Quintana, incidentally, but he wants to swap that for yellow. Will he get a chance? He's got to attack, and he's got to attack pretty soon. He's got 13 kilometres left of a stage upon which he can perform, but it's a difficult task and a role I'm not sure he's going to be equal to. We'll see. He'll give it a go. Question is when. Oh, Nibali's got a technical. Worst possible time at 13 kilometres out. He's only 800 metres into this climb, or indeed the leaders are, I should say. He hasn't actually approached it just yet. He's got a rear puncture, and this is not the time to have a technical, Sean. It can befall anyone, though.
Yes, well, it can any time, and we can see here Nibali, very cool, but not a good time as we come on to the slopes of the Alp here. We could see as well that he took his drink bottles, which is very important that he get them, because from here on, of course, the car will not be able to get near him. So very, very calm. 3 teammates immediately with him, and he's back in the cavalcade cars immediately.
Kanga is the preferred rider. He gets onto his wheel right now, and he'll give him a little bit of pace to try and get back in. He's in the cavalcade, but it's a huge ask for him to deliver. Bardet's in here as well. The polka dot jersey is staying with Chris Froome. 3 minutes and 30 then to that effective group up the road there. A little bit of spittle issued by Tommy Vogler. Not going to be his day. You wouldn't have expected that, but great to see the great character of French cycling as well. Also to hand. Character, something that Nibali is going to have to show right now to get back in. 12.7 kilometres remaining. Geniez is still alone up the road and still has a minute and 15, a minute and 14 declared there on your screen. A yellow jersey group, 3 minutes and 28. So I think that group with Roland may be where our stage winner comes from. We'll see how effective they are. And indeed, it could be that a curtain is drawn around them, I'm afraid, if Quintana decides to attack. He and Alejandro Valverde did so on the Qualifier. Can they do so again, Sean? I suspect they can, but when and how?
Well, I think how we can see Quintana, when he goes in the attack, he's just a brilliant climber. He's explosive on this very steep gradient of climbs, and that's where he can, do the damage. And we can see here immediately, although they're only setting a pace, Castelroveco from Movistar here wanting to set a pace, not allowing Sky to control situation. They want to push on a bit more, make it a bit more difficult for everybody. And we can see Nibali just getting back through the riders riders, a lot of riders losing contact, and you know, when you have to do this at this earlier point, this is
Quintana goes, he hits the barriers and goes for it. He had a foil, if you like, up the road, and it's Richie Porte that just gets a sense of what he's got to do and drives on. Manny Frank is there, uninterested in that. Be great to see what Quintana's doing up the front. Shame for Frank, of course, but here he goes. Quintana takes one of these curves, and it's Porte that's after him. Chris Froome just keeps this rhythm, and it's a fast cadence he's setting right now, as you can see. Keeps looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up. That's the way Froome rides. In fact, the way he injects pace into the climb is something to behold. Good that security is out here as well, holding some of the crowd back. And in fact, team mates as well of Chris Froome have dotted up the mountain as well, just to try and offer up a bit of support. Not only that, but maybe just holding a few people back. Let's have a look, shall we? They sail close to the barriered side of the road. It's open on the other, and for the time being, lots of respect and encouragement for everybody, which is what we like. Geniez needs a lot. He's now a minute and 1 to that group, which is Pinot, Anacona, Roland, Plaza Molina, Serpa, Eshidal and Ede. They are a minute down on Geniez as we speak, and there's Pierre Roland. How cool does he look at the moment? We've seen that before. All things can change, but Roland sails wide round the side of the road, and yeah, just holds on. It's Serpa that's with him, by the way, from Lampe Merida. Oh, and Eshidal just injects a little bit of pace. The leggy, rangy Canadian wants a piece of the day. It would be fantastic if he can get a stage win out of this. What's the response of those within the group? Well, they're chasing on, but nobody wanted to pick up the duty in particular. They look strong. Is this the fireworks that ultimately fall to the ground from Merida Eshidal? Let's have a look. It was a good idea, but he hasn't shaken them just yet, and they get back in, and Roland still just meerkatting on the pedals, has a look behind. They're starting to catch those who've been up the road, and Sky now, and Quintana goes again. A secondary attack by Quintana, and here he goes. They wound him back in, but Wout Poels is now the man who's got to chase on, and it's also Richie Porte who's there, and still Chris Froome dances on those pedals. It always seems an ungainly gear that he selects, and Quintana, it's constant. Bang, bang, bang. This is great, Sean.
Yes, and we can see Wout Poels there just upping the pace very, very quickly, riding up beside Nera Quintana, just looking across at him and saying, you know, we're in control here. And it looks like that Wout Poels and Richie Porte are very, very, you know, strong at the moment. We can see that the yellow jersey of Chris Froome is just allowing his two teammates to do all the controlling
well,
front.
They're doing most of the controlling, but right now Quintana looks very, very strong indeed, and away he goes. It's a gap, but it's not a handsome one, just for the time being, about 7 bike lengths. It was bigger than that, but Quintana has just almost feels the Sky anchor just behind him, as you can see, and some terrific work here being done by Wout Poels, who's just latched onto him. Relaying Froome back in is Richie Porte, doing a fantastic team player's job, and there Fan just on the inside, just not using his eyes but his camera, which is a strange thing to do. As he's here for real, why not just enjoy it? There is Nibali, who's not enjoying things at all, I'm afraid. Had a puncture at a disastrous time at the bottom of the climb just before he engaged it. These guys have gone up there, and Quintana comes back and he looks at Froome. He has a very, very big look, and I wonder whether he's going to go again. That's 2 attacks he's tried so far, Sean. They haven't worked, and he's running out of kilometres. 11.4 left.
Well, I think we can see Chris Froome here is just backing off a bit. Wout Poels look you know, extremely strong, because he went with Quintana and went away actually from Richie Porte and the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. Again, we'll wait and see now. Will he put in another big dig from the young jersey carrier here? It's going to keep on going, that is guaranteed, but for the moment he's not putting Sky under any difficulty with the 2 very, very strong teammates with Chris Froome.
Geniez is out front. He's looking in a comfortable place. Geniez is there. Where is Ryder Eshidal? How is he going to take this one on? That's the big question. He's going to give it his very, very best at the moment. Meanwhile, Sky are trying to make amends, or at least impose themselves, I should say. I say make amends. It's hardly that. But there is Quintana, and he is having, well, a difficult day, Sean. He's tried twice. Will he try again?
Well, he will try again, but again, you know, he's having difficulty with Sky being so strong. Chris Froome, the two teammates, they are looking exceptionally strong. That is going to be a difficult one. We can see Nibali here just working his way through riders that are getting dropped off the group of big favourites of yellow jersey, and all back to Cam again. Wout Poels just setting a strong pace here, and who is going to be the next one to attack? Contador here, of course. Also, we see Micah also on tow here from Tinkoff Saxo.
You have Geniez up front, 30 seconds behind. You have Pinot and Ejidal. Behind them, 5 pursuers: Anacona, Roland, Plaza Molina, Serpa and Ede. There's not really much zone of respite within this climb. It's a punishing one all the way up, Sean. It's a question of inclines, and they deal with some severe ones throughout this run.
Yes, well, it's a steep gradient all the way. It does kick up a bit more, but on the easier gradient, if somebody going the attack, well, then it's just as difficult as the most steepest section. And we can see here, you know, there's riders and groups all over the place. We can see here Bardet just battling on here with his teammate Villemous, just setting a pace and trying to get back. And we see Pinot here just getting back to Huisdal and pushing on a bit, and they need to push on. 2:30 at the moment with over 10 kilometers to go. They know that they have to, you know, really keep working out. Otherwise, that group of yellow jersey, Chris Froome and Nairo Quintana, they're going to get maybe caught up in the end.
Ejidal comes alongside, and Pinot says, well, I've got a man up the road. Why on earth am I going to chase here? Francis Lejeune 1 and 2 at the moment. If you count Ejidal as number 3, he might be number 1 at the end of the day in terms of the stage. But who is going to win this Tour de France? It looks like Chris Froome at the moment. All questions that have been asked by Nairo Quintana have been answered so far, Sean.
Yes, well, I think very much so, and it's not Chris Froome have to do it. His teammates who are doing all the work for the moment, and you know, that is a great position to be in. If you can just sit on your teammates and allow them to pull back, a rider like Nairo Quintana, who is, you know, such a good climber, it's a real comfort zone for Froome for the moment.
Nibali, what a day, and what a contrast, to be honest, to the day he had yesterday. A real piece of bad luck, and in fact he is distanced. He's about 40 seconds down on this group because they've had some real pace. They've been attacking each other, and that's been to the detriment of Nibali, I'm afraid, further down the mountain, Sean.
Yes, and of course we did see Nairo Quintana attacking very quickly on the earlier slopes of it. I think a little bit of a tactic there as well, because Van Velde, we know he has 1:19 on Nibali, so it gave him an opportunity. He was attacking Froome, but it also helps to pull away Valverde and give Nibali a more difficult ride if he does get back into this group.
No doubt who's going to get the combativity award today. It has to be this man. Geniez has been up there for much of the day. He was part of an early breakaway. He's gone for it. Going for it as well is Thibaut Pinot, his teammate, and spinning up a storm. He's had a conversation with Ejidal and said, look, I'm not going to chase on because I'm not going to try and close the gap on my teammate up the road. It seems obvious, all riders know that, and it doesn't stop Ejidal asking the question for a little bit of help on this climb. And Ejidal goes for it. He decides, I've had enough, and he leaves Pinot behind. And meanwhile, Valverde, it now is that goes for this. Valverde almost certain of 3rd place on this Tour de France because of what's happened to Nibali at the bottom. Got himself a rear puncture. So Valverde knows it'll be positions 2 and 3. But this is part of a bid for glory, of course, not for himself, but for the man who wears the white jersey. There he is, Nairo Quintana, trying to do the old 1-2. And right now, Valverde just trying to tempt Sky into action.
Yes, and this is going to be the interesting one again. They will allow Valverde just to ride out in front here, and then we will see Quintana, you know, doing the same as we did see on the previous climb, the Croix de Fer, where he just goes across to Valverde and try and work it that way. But we can see there with Sky very, very solid. Wout Poels, Richie Porte looking, you know, extremely strong for the moment.
Nibali just using the motorcycle, just dips in behind. He's just about to get back onto the Bardet group. Bardet, of course, wearing the polka dot jersey. Hoped for so much today, and maybe a possibility of carrying the polka dots, or indeed wearing that and being awarded it in Paris. Chris Froome, incidentally, leads the King of the Mountains competition. Right now, out of all the favourites, this man is up the road. It's Valverde you're looking at. He's got a modest margin of just 7 seconds. Ryder Ejidal is having to dig very, very deep here There's only one man ahead of him on the road. It's Geniez. He happens to be the teammate of the man alongside him, Thibaut Pinot. And the Frenchmen aren't going to attack. Pinot is not going to attack Geniez up the road. It's going to be down to Ejidal to have to do that duty. Likewise, other duties. Nibali, it's one of retrieval. One for Chris Froome, it's preservation, and for Nairo Quintana, it is one of attack. And there he goes. He's gone again. He's got Valverde up the road, and just look at the response from Team Sky. Wout Poels has a look behind, sees who else is with him, just checks up the inside. It's Richie Porte closest to him, and of course Chris Froome is there as well. Contador has come back from what looked like it was going to be a bit of a drift today, and he's very much involved as well. We remind you that Contador started today in 5th place, and it looks like a solid 5th right now because of the way this is panning out. Quintana has been wound back in again. He'll kick again, will he? He tries to find another rhythm and goes for it again. This is brave effort by Quintana, but at the end of what has been an extraordinarily punishing Tour de France, I'm just wondering if he's got anything left to give on this climb, the ultimate.
Well, he's having difficulty just to make a gap from the teammates of Chris Froome, and that is always difficult when you see Wout Poels just riding away there and pulling back, and we can see Valverde continuing up here in front, but Alberto Contador getting into difficulty. But Quintana again, he just throws in another punch.
He throws in another punch. He sails around this left-hander and just momentarily goes out of view of the chasers from Sky. Wout Poels first to take a look up and see what the gap is, and right now it's about 8, 10, 12 bike lengths. That's a good kick, very good kick. Oh, and suddenly another kick as well. As Thibaut Pinot kicking, standing right at Ejidal's face. He's gone up the road. Ejidal starts to fade. It's Geniez and Thibaut Pinot as well. Could it be a glorious day for France at the very last here? Minute and 46 back to Valverde, by the way, from the man up the road. That's Geniez who leads the day's stage. But it's the gap between Quintana and Froome that's the one of most concern. Nobody said this was an easy task, but they've taken it on gleefully today, and Francis Hijeux might well have their fun, Sean.
Well, I think they have to push on here, and Pinot knows that he has to get out of this group or push on as much as possible. Hijeux was walking away at it, and that's the way Ryder Hijeux climb. He's steady, just a really strong pace. Pinot just puts in a big punch here, gets up to Geniez, and he's pushing on now, trying to pull him away, but they need to do that because the race is coming up from behind.
It's all very well sending Valverde up the road, but when you get there, he can offer you no more assistance, and it's Quintana that's gone to the front. Same thing happened on the Quai d'Fer, same thing's happening on Alpe d'Huez. We're not quite up to Dutch corner just yet. In fact, we've got some time to go. 8.6 kilometers left of today. Quintana then, there he is. He checks back over his shoulder and he sees what he doesn't want to see, and it's a yellow jersey, Sean, not that far away.
Well, I think he sees that Chris Froome is in a bit of difficulty because he hasn't wrecked it at all, Froome, but of course he had two teammates who were controlling the situation. Will they be able to just keep on working away at it and pull back Nairo Quintana once more? But I think Chris Froome is a little bit in difficulty. Otherwise he might try and react himself when Quintana goes, if he was, as he's been in the past in this race, immediately reacting and the wheel of Quintana immediately.
It's Francis Hijeux 1 and 2 on the road today in this stage, and Ryder Ejidal has just kept his rhythm and got back to these guys. Here is Quintana and Valverde. They are second and third, the order that they are on the road at the moment. Second and third amongst the big names, I should say. Overall, we remind you, Quintana started the day 2 minutes and 38 down. What's the gap, Sean?
And let's not forget, Valverde, Quintana has a teammate up the road, Winner Ancona. He was in this group, so they will be coming to him pretty quickly, and that will be very important. If Winner Ancona is in good shape, well, then he can push on. Serpa here as well. We've seen the Colombian rider on the earlier part on the Quai d'Fer. He did push on as well with the white jersey, and he's doing it once again here.
Just counting now back between Quintana and Froome, and in fact it's a goodly margin. It's starting to eke out. By my reckoning, it's about 20 seconds at the moment, so work to be done by Team Sky. What resources have they got to bring right now to this battle, and what has Chris Froome got when he is ultimately isolated and on his own later on? We can only wait and see. So Colombians helping each other, sort of cross-team national assistance, I think it's possibly fair to say. But you'd have to prove that in court, I think. And would anyone begrudge Quintana a little bit of help by a fellow Colombian? We'll see. It's all part of the race today, that is for sure. And there, oh, poor Geniez goes backwards. What a great ride by him today. I think he'll be wearing the red combativity number tomorrow. We'll find out who is going to win the ultimate prize. Quite often they declare that at the top of the final day to the Champs-Élysées. We will see. There is Valverde. It's down to Quintana. The camera swings round and we see the white jersey, and indeed he's with his other teammate who was from the breakaway. Great work. This is winner Alicona. And still looks like he's offering something, because Quintana hasn't gone by him yet. Still waiting for that official declaration of the gap between Quintana and Froome. Transponders not functioning properly up the mountains here. We thought it was about 20 seconds. Has it expanded though, Sean?
Well, it is expanding. We can see that. And with 7.7 to go, it's a long ways to the top of this one. So, yes, Sky have the job to do to keep on setting a pace that is good enough to limit the time gained by Nairo Quintana. But again, you have to remember how good is Chris Froome. Is he starting to suffer a bit? So you have to make that calculation as well. We can see there that Chris Froome is losing a little bit on his teammates. I think Chris Froome is starting to suffer, and this is early on the climb to be suffering.
It is very early on the climb to be suffering, and 7.6 kilometres to go. It doesn't sound like an awful lot, but the worst part of this climb is still to come. And in fact, the worst section, the mid-section, I should say, one of the steeper sections, these guys are just sailing over right now. Sailing, clawing their way up this mountain, that's for sure. But look at the way Quintana is eating in. That's Roland ahead of him, and I suspect they may well just sail by these guys. Roland will do his best, I think, to tag onto them. Takes a big swig of water. What's he got to offer? Let's see. Is he absolutely burnt out? We're going to find out right now, and it's a suggestion almost of what anyone else has got left, because Roland is a decent climber indeed, not as good as Quintana clearly, and Quintana out of the saddle, and still he tries to issue yet more blows to Froome, who's further back down the mountain. Here he is with two teammates with him. Is it enough? Ajudal decides to push on for glory today, and I think he may well be in for a stage win. He's a very capable rider in situations such as this. Then again, it might well be Quintana, and don't forget, bonus seconds up for grabs at the line. That could be crucial, Sean, in the scheme of things as well. Yes, well, it looks like the winner is going to come from maybe Quintana. I think he's the one who's eaten into the advantage here of our men out in front, Ajudal and Thibaut Pinot. 20 seconds I was hearing there just some moments ago over race radio for Chris Froome down on Nairo Quintana. 20 seconds, 2 minutes and 39 is what Quintana needs to win this Tour de France. So it's a massive ask, it's a massive crowd, it's a massive moment on this Tour de France. And, well, Quintana is giving it a good go. Is it all too late? We're going to find out. Sky damage limitation for them at the moment. Yes, it is all about damage limitation, and they're doing it quite well, working away at the two riders, Wout Poels and Richie Porte, working well together. We can see here the group of Nibali, Bauke Mollema and Adam Yates, who is doing a really good performance, because he is up in some serious company here. 26 or so seconds now between Quintana and the yellow jersey of Chris Froome. He's got to find more time. He needs 2 more minutes on this mountain. He's got 6.9 kilometers to do it. Yes, well, I think it's going to be always difficult, even going at the very earlier point on Alpe d'Huez. Making the calculation, the time you have to make up, it would be always difficult. But again, we have to wait and see how Sky managed the situation here. Chris Froome, you know, he's working away at it. It's looking that it's going to be difficult, but again, there's almost 7 kilometers, a little under 7 kilometers to go. Well, the vehicles that you see parked up here have been here for an entire week. That was the cut-off point to allow vehicles up the mountain. These guys, they've been climbing all over France, climbing, sprinting, time trialing, and finally we come to Alpe d'Huez. What an amazing crucible, in a certain way, for these guys to be put within. Absolutely white hot the action, despite the fact that the pace is slow because of the incline we're dealing with, and in fact more than 10%, 10 and 12s along the way, and it's been too much for some, certainly too much for Bardet, and I'm afraid it's bye-bye polka dots for him. Yes, I think it's, and for the man just in front of him, the Katusha rider, Purito Rodriguez, also in
in the mountain classification, but unfortunately today, the way the race have been going, it looks like that Chris Froome is the one, because he is going to finish up. If he keeps on going in the position he's in, well, then he's going to take more points in that mountain classification. And of course, the other two men who will challenge him are further down the mountain.
Well, there you are. A diminutive character is Quintana, but he's a big powerhouse and a leprechaunic fan as well, to the side of the road, just bouncing along and offering up a heartfelt encouragement. And here comes Ejderdaal, and they're coming into Dutch corner. You can see the orange. There's not many mountains in Holland, but they own one here in France, it seems, and they are underway. They've been waiting for this all week, and the first man that they see is Ryder Ejderdaal.
Yes, although we can see that's, out front, it's Thibaut Pinot is just a little bit up ahead of Ejderdaal here, so it's a big battle here with the two leaders on the road, but I think they're very concerned with what's happening behind. They're being made aware that the group coming up behind Quintana is coming up very quickly, as we can see here. He's coming across to Gines.
He is. Gines is about to catch. Unfortunately, sorry for that. Pinot masked by a naked outrunner. Here he is. He's out front, and it is in fact that it's Ejderdaal that's been left in his wake. Likewise, Froome from Quintana, but it's a question of margin. Here we go through the absolute madness of Dutch corner right now. They have been here all week. They are tanked up and ready to give vent and applause to everybody who's coming up here. But the tanks of the riders are empty, Sean. And what about Team Sky? And what about Froome? These are questions we're going to answer in the next 6K.
Yes, and it's important that Chris Froome have two teammates just to lead him through here. As we can see, they're working very well together all the time, losing a little bit slowly, but it's not growing out of anything of an emergency at the moment. But we're still just under 7 kilometers to go.
7 kilometers to go. They come through this amazing party, a great festival of cycling appreciation, I think it's fair to say. And thank goodness that they've kept themselves sensible. I think a lot of warnings have gone out. The police have been down here as well and said, look, respect them, and they're giving them space here, Sean.
Yes, well, for the moment they're giving them space, but we can see here just a spectator running along. This is where dangerous, because with Valverde so close to that spectator, if he gets pushed over, he could go down in front of him, and that would be a disaster for Valverde. But again, we can see here that the Sky men leading up at the moment, and it's a big battle out front between the two leaders. We see Thibaut Pinot here, the Frenchman from Française de Joux, and also Ryder Ejderdaal from Canada-Garmin, which is just a little bit further down here.
My goodness, it's just the rhythmic movement that pick out, of course, the riders from the crowd. There's virtually no distance. At elite sport level, you can get no closer to your heroes, so respect them, I think, is the order of the day.
Yes, well, that's what you would be hoping, but again, people are waiting here. They see their big heroes coming through, and it's sometimes difficult to get just over anxious, and that's when we can see sometimes problems. For the moment, all going well, and we are getting closer to the barriered off section, and when we get to that, I think the riders will be relieved that a bit more safe to get through.
Well, you can't barrier the whole mountain, and you wouldn't want to. Alpe d'Huez has its own charm, its old drama. They say it's the nearest thing you get to stadium cycling out in the Alps, and you can understand the atmosphere is absolutely electric. Right now, Chris Froome needs some kind of extra power. He's got to find it, because up the mountain is Quintana, and look at the margin, Sean.
Yes, well, it is growing out, as we can see here. Quintana at 58 seconds, and Chris Froome at 1:28 at the moment, and we can see here that everybody is just working at it and giving it their 100%, and certainly the Sky are doing that, and they're doing a great job. The two men for Chris Froome are excellent. If they can keep on working as they have been for the last number of kilometers, well, that will be the saving of Chris Froome, and the yellow jersey should be secure. But again, we have to see Quintana where he is, and he's going to continue on. How fast can he go? That is the question.
5 kilometers to go. It's going to be another stage victory by the looks of things, unless Quintana can get back at Thibaut Pinot. He's a minute down with 5 kilometers to go. I'm wondering whether that's enough, because Quintana's got no choice other than to really push on, and he's doing it, Sean.
Yes, well, it's Winner Ancona who's doing all the pushing. He's doing an unbelievable performance up front as well with Quintana, because he's been on the front there with Quintana on tow. Again, how long will he last out there? And I think that minute for Thibaut out front is going to be very, very difficult, because when Quintana has to take it up on his own, he will eat into that minute advantage very quickly.
Chris Froome is there. You saw that Pierre Rolland is also there. The gap between Froome and Quintana at the moment is about 32 seconds in that sort of order. It's infrequent, the time gap that we're getting, but it's holding at least just beyond the 30-second mark. Don't forget the gap at the top of the day between Froome and Quintana is 2 minutes and 38. Is that too much of an ask? I believe it is. I think Chris Froome will be crowned champion at the end of today, but nothing can be certain until we get these 4.6 kilometres out of the way, and a little bit more, of course, for those further down the mountain. You're looking at Chris Froome right now. He's still got a teammate with him there as well. Quintana strikes out. He's burnt all his personnel, and now he's going to scorch up this mountain.
Yes, and he's scorching up there. We can see, you know, the Colombian supporters. He just goes in the attack. He knows that Winner Ancona is starting to slow, starting to tire, and he has to just, you know, go from a long ways out. He's already, you know, taking it up very early, but you know, this is where he can make up time, and we can see here, impressive the way he's going uphill.
Absolutely fantastic climber in action. A man who started off for many as favourite for this Tour de France. It looks like it's going to be second place, but nothing is decided yet. Chris Froome wrestling with all his emotions. He's had to deal with an awful lot. He's carried a lot on his shoulders, and not just that jersey, let's not forget. Almost a burden of success. It's not been liked, it's not been appreciated in certain quarters. Many, though, do. And right now, Froome is into the last few curves of Alpe d'Huez. 4.2 kilometres remain of today for the man up the road. That's Thibaut Pinot. Pinot is up there, Ejidal is there, and Quintana's 48 seconds back. Quintana is greedy for bonus seconds as well, Sean, if he can find those 48 seconds to Pinot, and I suspect that's the easiest task he's going to have today of the many. Then he gets a 10-second bonus at the line as well, which could prove crucial.
Yes, well, the second bonus every second will be crucial here, and we can see here, you know, he's just giving it everything. Still over 4 kilometres to go, and it's a 4 kilometres that just goes on forever. On the Alp, you know, when you have 4 kilometres, the kilometres come down so slowly, it's just unbelievable. And we can see Quintana also starting to look like he's suffering here. Not surprising the way they have been tackling this climb up to Alpe d'Huez, and now it's a question of if Chris Froome can keep on working. He's lost World Pools, of course, and it's Richie Porte, the Australian rider, who is securing a real strong pace for the moment. Looking good, but they have to continue on for another 4 kilometres.
Thibaut Pinot still grinds. He's into the barriered section right now, and 3.9 kilometres from home. He's almost into the easier area right now, and he's looking at the camera. He wants to know what the gap is. I think his radio's been pulled out of his ear. He didn't want anyone shouting at him. It is indeed. The earpiece is dangling down by his chin. What's the gap, he says? How much chance have I got of taking a stage victory and saving this race for myself, essentially? Well, Quintana's on his case, but how far back is he? 44 seconds. He hasn't found Ejidal just yet. 40 seconds now declared back to Pinot, and the gap between Quintana and Froome is heading for the minute mark, Sean.
Yes, well, it is growing out slowly, and it's going to continue on all the way to the finish line, but will it be enough? It's not looking like that it's going to be, but again, you know, in 4 kilometres there can so much happen. Quintana can just start to weak, or he can, you know, maybe just continue at this pace. If he does, and Chris Froome continues on the same pace, well then I don't think he will take over the leadership of this Tour de France. But again, Chris Froome, will he be able to continue on with the pace Richie Porte is setting? We can see here, you know, he's still following there, looking about, and when you can look about, you're not suffering too much, but again, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, Chris Froome still being abused by certain sections of the crowd, but he needs to just put that behind him. He did spare himself a glance at somebody who'd issued more than just words in his direction, I'm afraid. He's been a brave man, Sean, Chris Froome. This is a brave performance as well as a gutsy performance, and a powerful one by Froome, let's not forget. And he's still struggling with his own emotions within his own mind, and I'm not surprised. He's carried quite a weight, hasn't he, throughout this tour?
Yes, well, he's had a difficult tour, and of course it does go on. You will always get these people, you know, and we did see there on the roadside there was something said to him. He looked over his left shoulder, but you have to continue on. You have to focus out in front and just concentrate on the racing is alone. It's difficult to do, but you have to just try, you know, 100% on what's happening up front.
Just use your anger. Right now there's a minute between himself and Quintana. There you see the gap just hovering, minute and 2, minute and 1. He's setting that pace. He's doing enough to win this race despite all of the angst that he has faced, and a great performance. And of course, let's not forget, he has of course won a stage, that amazing stage to Pierre Saint-Martin, first stage of the Pyrenees, where essentially he really set his stall out for yellow. Solid minute thereabouts between Quintana and the yellow jersey of Chris Froome, and it looks like that's the way that may well stay. 36 seconds between Quintana and what looks like we're going to have a French winner today, Thibaut Pinot. 3 kilometers remaining, and it just eases ever so slightly right now.
I don't think it's going to work for Thibaut Pinot. Unfortunately, Quintana is the one who's coming up, and this final 3 kilometers are a little bit easier in sections, but still at this point it just hurts so much after the effort they're making on this plus 13 kilometer climb. We can see Quintana there, he's just working away at it, and Thibaut Pinot, I think he's really starting to suffer. I'm concerned for Pinot with this distance from the finish. The advantage he has got 35 seconds. I don't think it's enough.
Well, it's now 36 seconds. It's maybe the toils of this campaign are starting not only to take a toll on Quintana, but Froome, of course, as well. And Froome is now cutting the gap. He's cutting the deficit, 58 seconds now. And still, I'm starting to believe that Pinot may well just get this. 35 seconds Quintana, 2.7 kilometers to go, and this is where it eases ever so slight to about 5.5%. He comes up to rider Ejidal, the first of his targets up this mountain essentially. The real target, of course, sits behind him wearing the yellow jersey, and still a gap between them, a minute and 2. It's hovering, Sean, but it's staying. It's not getting beyond that at the moment, at least.
No, it's hovering for a little moment now, and you know, around the minute and 2. But again, we can see Quintana maybe starting to pay for his efforts. He's the one who was riding, and on the climb, of course, drafting is not as anything like on the flatter sections, but still it's important that you have a teammate or two mates, which Chris Froome had for a long time. He still have Richie Porte there. Nairo Quintana has been on his own for quite a while now, but he had also a teammate in the winner Ancona.
Motorcycle almost taking out the main challenger for the yellow jersey. He'll be struck out for tomorrow on the Champs-Élysées. Striking up as well up the road here is Quintana. His mission now is to get to Pinot. He's bridged over to Ejidal, and Ejidal fights back on the flatter section here. Brave effort by the big rangy Canadian, and the little guy from Colombia goes for it yet again. He wears the young riders leaders jersey. This man, Thibaut Pinot, I still think he can do this. He believes as well, I'm sure. He's got no choice. 28 seconds with 2.3 to go. It's going to be close, Sean.
Yes, it is going to be close, and it seems that Thibaut Pinot has got energy from somewhere. He's really working at it, giving it everything, and of course a stage on Alpe d'Huez, a Frenchman to win a stage on Alpe d'Huez, what a performance would be. And Thibaut Pinot, of course, he's had a real difficult race, but of latter days he's been very aggressive in the break a lot and getting close to winning a stage. If he wins this one, well, it'll make the race for himself and the Française de Joux team.
Just looking at the clock from Quintana, measured up to Pinot. Pinot is just striding out again. It's back up to 26 seconds. It was 24 a few moments ago. What reserves has he got? Quintana starts to close once more, and look at the gap between the yellow jersey and Quintana. I think Sky possibly realizing that this is job done for them. They came in today with 2 minutes and 38 seconds. They've got to be careful though. 2 kilometers still remaining, and of course bonus seconds at the line for Quintana.
Yes, and taking the bonus seconds into count, still with this this advantage that Quintana has pulled out over Chris Froome, looking like it's not going to happen. And as we mentioned this morning at the start, you know, the advantage that he had to make up 2:38 was always going to be a huge ask.
A huge ask, but he's asked the question of himself, and he's tried to deliver an answer. But is it going to be enough as he goes under the 2 kilometer to go banner, and he sits back in the saddle? And look, Pinot pulls out an advantage. 27 seconds now. It looks like Pinot is going to give the French a victory that maybe just will calm some of the angst that they seem to be feeling, particularly towards Chris Froome on occasion. Here is Chris Froome, though. Largely there has been applause and support from the main body of the fans here, and we can be grateful for that. 1.7 kilometers to go, and it looks like we are now about to crown Chris Froome. We'll wait till he gets to the line, and Quintana, I think, knows it. He looks back down the mountain, he looks up ahead, and what does he see ahead of him? He sees Pinot, and behind him is Froome. Quintana, it is not going to be, I'm afraid, not a stage win either. 27 seconds with 1,500 metres to go. And now it's where Pinot starts to believe and starts to push on. And I'm afraid Quintana wakes up to the fact that he's not going to get a stage win today, I don't think. He's certainly not going to win this Tour de France, Sean.
No, it doesn't look like he's going to make the advantage. And he's probably made aware, the differences. And again, he's expecting to, close up on the ones that are out in front. I'm sure he realises that Thibaut Pinot is out there because there was a lot of riders in between, so it's difficult. But from his director of sport, he's surely getting the information, and we can see here he's just going to battle all the way to the line. And what a ride by Thibaut Pinot, because I was looking at the times that our chaser here, Nairo Quintana, it looked like he was going to swallow him up in the final number of kilometres, but he just got energy from somewhere and looks like he's going to hold on.
Well, it's down to 22 seconds. He is fading, and Quintana is now engaging in a sprint. 1,100 metres. There's the Flamme Rouge. Now, Quintana's got no sympathy for the French public as far as this matter is concerned. If he can catch Pinot in the last K, he certainly will, because he wants that 10-second bonus out the line. I don't think he's going to do it, because the crowd and everyone is willing this man on, and he has got the will to succeed. When his head's in the right place, Thibaut Pinot can conquer, and today it looks like he's going to conquer the Alp. This is the only man who can stop him. Quintana here, coming under the Flamme Rouge with a 21-second margin to the Frenchman. I think it's enough for him.
Yes, it is enough. I think at this point it does ease off a bit and it goes down. When you get inside the final kilometre, it starts to go down, and then it kicks up the last 400 metres once again with a 21-second advantage. The way Thibaut Pinot's riding in the last number of kilometres, it looked like he's going to make it.
Richie Porte, the ultimate lieutenant, it seems, has delivered Chris Froome to victory here. He's been part of it. There, of course, is Pierre Rolland. Can't quite keep up with these guys right now. Minute and 46 back. Minute and 46, and so knock 20 seconds off that. You can see what the gap is. It's nowhere near 2 minutes and 38, I'm afraid. And so Chris Froome is going to be crowned Tour de France champion. But for the French, the headlines tomorrow are all going to be about Thibaut Pinot. They're absolutely loving this. The hoardings are being beaten. It's a drumbeat that echoes down the mountain. Everybody else knows that somebody else has won the day. It's a Frenchman. Francis de Jure have taken the day on Alpe d'Huez, and the man that's done it for them is Thibaut Pinot. He's been crestfallen. He's picked himself back up. He's been wounded. He's picked himself back up. He got to the foot of this Alpe d'Huez, and he picked up the mountain, and he grounded to dust. Fantastic performance by him. Absolutely superb victory. We cast our minds back. Here he is. Brave effort by Quintana. The emotions rising above for everybody here. What a great performance it's been by him, Sean. Credit to him in every single way.
What a battle. What a battle for the stage victory, and what a battle to try and win this tour. We see Nairo Quintana coming in there just over 20 seconds behind the French stage winner Thibaut Pinot, who put up an unbelievable ride. He pulled something out of the bag with the final 2-3 kilometres and just held on, and we can see Chris Froome is just working on it to limit the losses, and that's what it's going to be now, as we see Heidel also a great performance to hold on out ahead of the big battle coming up from behind of the big candidates for this Tour de France.
Fantastic performance as we regather ourselves for Ryder Ejodal as well. Well, Chris Froome has had to gather himself and bite his tongue on so many occasions, and he took big bites in the Pyrenees out of all around him, and he's now taken this Tour de France title. He'll come to the line. He is our champion, a worthy champion as well, I'll be bound. For the second time, Chris Froome has been crowned Tour de France winner, and that to him will sound very good indeed. Far better than the sound of the naysayers along the way. He's shut up an awful lot of people out there, and he has delivered. Not only the yellow jersey, he is our king of the mountains. A king today, I guess, crowned was Pinot, but to my mind, Chris Froome is the hero. What an amazing performance by him, by his team, and by everybody associated with him. Chapeau. Sean, a worthy winner.
Yes, well, he had to work for it on the Alpe d'Huez, and the teammates, I think, were of vital importance. This man coming in here, Richie Porte, doing an excellent job, riding for so long up this very, very difficult climb, the Alpe d'Huez. But Chris Froome, you know, limiting the losses in the end when he had to do it. I see about 120 down there on Nairo Quintana, plus the bonus which Quintana got, so he's going to lose about, what, 120 to 130.
So Quintana's going to be around the minute mark down, about a minute and 10 by our handwritten reckoning. Well, apologies if the emotions rose to the fore. What a gutsy effort by little Nairo Quintana. I spent a lot of time with him over the seasons, and in fact he's the most quietly spoken, and he's the sort of guy you just walk past without noticing, quite frankly. But what a fantastic performance by Quintana to try one last time to deny Chris Froome. Spectacular battles we've had, and all credit to Team Sky around Chris Froome as well. Powell's just coming across the line right now, and the Yateses as well. They've been a joy to watch for Orica Green Edge, a team that of course had so many holes knocked in their personnel right at the very beginning of this tour. This is Nibali coming in within this group, and Romain Bardet as well, and great credit to them as well. And Lotto Jumbo, the sort of quiet team really, Jessing and Kelderman, they've had their times here likewise. It's the ultimate challenge, the Tour de France, and sometimes it's too big an ask for some very, very big names. Nibali crosses the line, Contador too, and Bardet.